Hello, Abnormal Investigations. I've got another, uh, I guess it would be a missing persons that I'm looking into. This one here has really got me kind of scratching my head on a few things. It made me kind of ask some questions. Now, it's interesting, this guy's profession and his back history and what happened to him. So, let's jump into this. The name of the individual we're going to be talking about today is Maurice. They called him Doc for his nickname. Demetz was his last name, Dametz. The date that this happened, April 29th, 1981. The age of the individual, whenever he went missing, was 84 years of age. Location was Colorado, near Devil's Head Lookout, Pike Forest National Park, Colorado. Missing, never located. Moon phase, waning crescent. Again, low light moon phase. On April 29, 1981, 84-year-old Reverend Maurice Doc Demetz headed out with his friend David McSherry to search for topaz near the Topaz Point picnic area at Devil's Head in Pike National Forest, Colorado. Now, topaz is a silicate mineral made of aluminum and fluorine. It's pretty interesting. It's used as gemstones and jewelry. It is natural state. It is colorless, though trace elements impurities can make it a pale blue or golden brown to a yellow orange. Amateurs often look for the mineral, a hobby known as rock hounding. Dametz was last seen rock hunting near Rampart Range Road in Douglas County. McSherry was never more than 50 yards away from him. After a few hours, McSherry checked on Dametz and informed him that they were heading home shortly. 15 minutes later, when McSherry returned to escort him to the car, Dametz had vanished. Despite extensive searches and the passage of many decades, no trace of him has ever been found. Now, one of the things I noticed on this is, if you'll notice, whenever he does go missing, you notice they said they stayed within 50 yards of one another. 50 yards is not only a line of sight distance, but it is also a distance to where you would have vocalization. But whenever that separation happened, the point of separation, I guess you would call it, that is whenever Doc went missing. Now, Reverend Dametz was born in Blue Rapids, Kansas on June 24th, 1896. On June 1st of 1930, he married Myrtle Lucille Goodyear in LaPorte. He had one daughter, Martha Ann, and lived in Longmont, Colorado. Now, Doc had a PhD from the Presbyterian Theological Seminary in Omaha, Nebraska. He studied at the National Bible College of Wichita, Kansas, and got a master's degree at the University of Denver, and later a DD from Rockmount College in Denver. Now, the Reverend Dametz was also an author, writing Dead at the Top, Focal Points of Christian History, Burden Bearing, Trouble Transformed, Mystery of the Godliness, and numerous articles in leading religious periodicals. Now, one of the things that really started making me ask questions about the disappearance of this individual, and this is if it was something of an entity or a Sasquatch or anything along those lines that, I believe to be Nephilim. I believe in Scott Carpenter's work. Good friends with his son, Travis Carpenter. We do a lot of work together. and we got a lot more work coming up. We're getting ready to do a video together for our Patreon. I do believe that the DNA project proved where these things come from. Now, if you'll go over to Travis Carpenter's T-Carp or his dad Scott Carpenter's page, you can find all the books that you can get a hold of that will describe a lot of this to you. And that, what was it, the DNA project that they done, the Truth Denied, shows even how hard they tried to hide the truth when they found it. Now, the one thing I thought about is that the Reverend went missing with all these degrees he has. He has a PhD, and then having a master's degree, and then a DD from Rockmount College in Denver. He would not only be you would suspect to be a preacher, but he would be a very knowledgeable preacher that would know the Word of God and know how to battle spiritual. He would be great at spiritual battles. So it makes you wonder, and it makes me even ask myself a question. And I'm going to ask you that in just a second as we move on. I want to get this one little part right here out. Now, the Reverend Dametz was also an author and writing a lot of other books. So with him having so much knowledge and an author of so many religious books and having that, I come to this question, and this is a question that I continue to ask myself, and I have spoke with Christians on this matter. And so we know that as a Christian, the name Jesus Christ, it has authority over the demons. But a question that I still ask myself, when you're dealing with a cryptid, you're dealing with a flesh and blood creature, right? Nephilim, or as I believe them to be, more of the Iliad. So for a moment, let's think about the Nephilim or the Iliad being the descendant of the Nephilim bloodline. It's all the same lineage, same bloodline. Father not known, mother is human, right? So Goliath was a Nephilim, right? So his brothers would have been Nephilim. They were giants, which meant that they were large and they were different than us, and they also died. I mean, they were flesh and blood. A rock knocked him out, and then he was beheaded by his own sword by David. So if these creatures are flesh and blood, and something was to attack, and it wasn't a demon, but merely an abomination, something that was created that wasn't supposed to be created, but is flesh and blood, and he was to try to use spiritual fighting against it, this is what I question about. Would it have to obey? Now, I asked a pastor about this, and this was the answer that I was given, and I seemed to agree with him until my mind maybe changed later. But you see, they're flesh and blood, so no more different than anybody else. So if a bad guy breaks into your house and he's intent on doing something terrible to you, yeah, you can tell him to stop and you can rebuke him, but the sad thing is free will. And we live in a world that's not perfect and where people do have free will. If the free will of him is to continue to hurt you in his flesh and blood physical body, then yes, I believe that you're still going to be attacked. That would seem to be, it would seem to make sense. And I'm still digging into this, and as you know, I'm always open to any suggestions. But that's what I get from this. And I wonder sometimes what happened, what happened here, and was it free will to be able to do this? Because we believe these creatures to be flesh and blood with, angel attributes that we don't completely understand and abilities that we probably don't understand either. So the Pike National Forest is located in the Front Range of Colorado, west of Colorado Springs, including Pikes Peak, and it is named after the American explorer Zebulon Pike. The first encompasses 1,000. Let me fix that there. 1,106,604 acres, or 4,478 kilometers. Or kilometers. Again, I apologize. Within Clear Creek, Teller Park, Jefferson, Douglas, and El Paso counties, Rampart Reservoir, a large artificial body of water, is located within the forest. Much of the bedrock within Pike Forest is made of coarse pink to orange Pikes Peak granite. We also know that in a lot of these cases there is water present, granite is present, and granite being a conductor of electricity, energy, if you will. On April 29, 1981, Maurice wore a white baseball cap, a maroon plaid flannel shirt, and brown ankle-high work boots. Since he was in poor health, he needed help from McSherry to get to his digging spot, a small sandy pit close to the Rampart Range Road. Now, surprised that Dametz could make it up the hill alone, he checked back at the car, waited and honked the horn a few times, but there was no response. Dametz was nowhere to be found. The site where Maurice was last seen was not disturbed, besides the small pit he dug to find the topaz. Crucially, there were no signs of a struggle in the dirt, and no blood was present, indicating that a wild animal had not attacked the Reverend. There was not any signs of a struggle. McSherry flagged down a motorist on Rampart Range Road. By 11 p.m. that night, the Douglas County Sheriff had been notified, and the search and rescue teams were at the scene. Searchers used grid patterns to scout the area for the following 5 days, but there was no sign of Dametz. The search dogs could not even pick up a scent. He had just vanished into thin air. How many times do we hear that, guys? Search dogs can't pick up anything. Now, on July 18th, 1981, Maurice's wife, Myrtle, wrote to Governor Richard Lamb asking for further assistance in the finding him, saying that she believed Maurice may have met foul play or something may have carried him out of the area. She requested a more extensive investigation of his disappearance. But nothing was ever discovered, and Maurice was officially declared dead in 1990 after being missing for 9 years. Why would the governor not search for him one last time? Why were they so quick to just call him dead? I mean, I'm not saying 9 years is quick, but to the family, it seems like they could have done more. What really gets me in this story, besides the free will really making my mind think about it, what do you think happened? And since there was no sign of a struggle there, that tells me that he left the area on his own free will. He was not forced. So if he left that area, in which we know he would have had to enter the woods, because if he wouldn't have entered the woods, then he would have been seen. What got Doc's attention and caused him to leave from digging and to possibly enter the woods? What noise did he hear? What sound did he hear? What did he see? You know, a lot of times, whenever I go out on investigations, I hear things that get my curiosity all the time. I've heard everything, it sounds like, from a baby to a cat to, a lady or mumbling or talking, and even, something that will even try to mimic cows or something. It gets your attention where it gets you to looking, and then the curiosity kicks in and you start looking. I think as boots on the ground investigators, we have to be aware of these cases and know that, hey, we're no different than these people. When we hear things and we go to check on them, what keeps us from disappearing? And there's only one thing that comes to mind. I believe it's the little device in our hand. Not the weapon we take with us, but the simple fact that maybe it's because we're recording. Does whatever that takes these people, does it know that if it takes us and it's recorded and it's caught, that there may be some kind of penalty, that they'll be hunted, that they'll be destroyed? It makes you wonder, is our most powerful tool when we go into the woods, is it lights and cameras? Is that what truly protects us? Thank you for listening, guys. I appreciate y'all being here and supporting me. And until next time, guys, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner. And just think about these things. These are real cases that affected real people. Be safe, guys. Don't take any chances in the woods. And remember, it's always the point of separation where everything seems to go bad.